By the end of today's video, you will be able to diagnose and understand how to find Shinkahi, but also how to treat Shinkahi, helping you to understand the hidden patterns of disharmony present in the Hara. This is especially helpful when diagnosing emotional and digestive imbalances, which often present in the Shinkahi region. As both a student and teacher of TJM, in particular Iyashinomichi style, I have not only learned in-depth Hara diagnosis and continue to learn it with my teachers, but I'm also teaching people worldwide the importance of diagnosing the Hara and also of treating according to the Hara. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how Hara diagnosis can help your practice, I would love to talk to you about your goals within TJM and really how to transition your practice from TCM into traditional Japanese medicine styles. You can find a link to that discussion in the description box below. Now, the Shinkahi region is located just below the sternum, from about the sternum to about Ren 12. So in the upper jiao of the Hara, or the middle jiao of the full body. Now, as I said before, Shinkahi, or obstruction below the heart, is the direct translation for it. Now, Shinkahi often is related to emotional imbalances and, of course, therefore digestive issues. Now, when palpating, you're really looking for resistance in this area. Now, oftentimes the definition of both Shinkahi and Shinkahiko can be quite confusing. But as I have learned from both my teachers and from Yoshimasu Todo, Shinkahi is when the patient does not feel that obstruction. So the practitioner only feels the obstruction. And Shinkahiko is when both practitioner and patient can feel the obstruction. Oftentimes with Shinkahiko, the patient will describe or start complaining about that their stomach really hurts, and they're consistently wanting to massage that area of their stomach, meaning that below the sternum kind of area where the physical stomach actually lies. So as I said, and just to remind you again, Shinkahi and Shinkahiko, while both very common diagnoses in the Hara, they are not the same thing. Now, there are a few different herbal diagnoses in Kanpo medicine, or Japanese herbal medicine, that go along with Shinkahi. Now, I'm not going to break down the entire herbal formula and all of the different reasons of why this formula would work for it. I'm just going to summarize, but there's really two, maybe three, if you go out on a limb, Kanpo herbal formulas that will address Shinkahi. So the very first is Bansha Seishitang, or in Japanese, Hange Sashinto. Now, Bansha Seishitang, really in particular, the herb that is addressing the Shinkahi is the Bansha. Now, it's a really, really important herb to address this area. So oftentimes with the Bansha Seishitang, and again, we're really looking at the Bansha in particular here for the Shinkahi, it's really associated with two different things. The first is drying dampness, and the second is transforming cold phlegm. Now, what that means for our acupuncture and moxibustion is that there's water toxin or dampness in the stomach that is not being properly digested. So what we need to do with our acupuncture moxa is really to promote urination or sweating or even vomiting, something that is going to get this water out. We could also even promote loose stools if we really wanted to. So things like that that would work within your TCM practice are, of course, any of your water points in and around the abdomen, the back, and the legs. All of these are going to promote urination. Also, things that we can think about is, what is the cold water? What is that damp doing to the stomach? Has it lowered the functionality of the spleen and stomach? And do we have to warm that up with our moxibustion? Now, the second formula that is very commonly associated with Shinkahi is Renshentang, or Ninjinto. Now, Renshentang, in particular the Renshen in the formula, is really working on tonifying the spleen and the spleen qi deficiency in that area. Now, of course, Renshentang is really there to tonify the spleen and strengthen the middle jiao. And in this instance, what we're looking for on palpation, rather than in comparison to our Bansha Seishitang, is that we won't have any splashing sounds in the stomach, of course. In that Ren 12 up to the sternum area of Shinkahi, we won't have splashing sounds. We might have instead a sunken feeling or something that indicates to us qi deficiency. Usually when we have damp and cold stagnation in the stomach, it's going to feel a bit more full. They're not going to be digesting things as well. And also the area might be a little cold because of the water. That's the only thing that might be a bit confusing between these two formulas upon palpation, because of course with qi deficiency, we also might have cold in that Shin Ka Hi area. Now, when it comes to your acupuncture and moxibustion, Ren Shen Tang is going to be definitely a different treatment than Bansha Shishtang. In that, in Bansha, we're really working on moving the dampness out of the water, just like the formula does with our acupuncture and moxibustion. Now, in Ren Shen Tang, we don't want to do that. In fact, instead, what we really want to do is tonify the qi deficiency in the spleen and really help the spleen to awaken and be a little bit more enlivened when it's going into its digestion. So we really want to use our moxa in and around Ren 12 and perhaps higher regions. Stomach 25 are great points, things like that. Now, when it comes to TCM, I often tell my students, really the TCM points are more like a GPS location than an actual point that you should be treating. Now, depending on what style of acupuncture in Japanese medicine that you're utilizing, how you would treat spleen deficiency is going to vary quite a bit. In Iyashinomichi, we're going to use, of course, more protocol points like Ren 12, stomach 25, stomach 36, spleen 6, things like that to tonify and or move the qi of the stomach, depending on the formula. But, you know, we can also use the 6 flowers of the back, and of course, at our core of Iyashinomichi, and I would say for most Japanese medicine styles, we're going to palpate and really feel where the live points are on the abdomen and in the associated channels that we need to really tonify in order to fix that qi deficiency or to move the damp, depending on the formula, and really utilize the points that are live at that moment rather than just rely on a textbook point to really treat the patient in front of us. So in these kinds of videos, I often will give you some tips and tricks on things that you can start utilizing, but when it comes down to it, if you have the correct technique, then you can have the correct application, and that is of course true with your palpation. And the theory, like we're introducing in this video, is there to really back up what you're feeling, help your brain to understand things, and also to give you a little bit to fall back on when your palpation or your technique is really not on par that day because maybe you're tired or your brain's just not in it for the day. Now, when it comes to palpating any place on the Hara, I always like to follow my teacher's advice of starting with a superficial palpation, trying to feel what's under your hand with only the weight of your hand, and then sinking your hand deeper in order to really understand and diagnose exactly what's happening. I like to think that my deeper palpation is there and to confirm or deny what my superficial palpation has found. So it's going to teach my superficial palpation that, hey, you didn't pick all of that up, or you didn't pick up the right things, or congratulations, you did a great job. So if you don't palpate Shinkahi on first initial superficial palpation, but you do on a deeper one, always back up and do that superficial palpation again, because that's going to really teach your hands how to palpate correctly. Before I go any further, I would love to know if you think that Hara diagnosis would detract or help your current treatment. Let me know in the comments below. Now, the last thing I would love to talk about is the connection of Shinkahi to the emotions. Now, Shinkahi is literally written as obstruction below the heart, and that is because it is very, very tied into emotional stress, possibly depression, anxiety, stress at work, things like that. And so it's really important when someone has Shin Ka Hi that you really check in with what's happening with their body emotionally, with their lives emotionally at the time. Because just like with a Western diagnosis of an ulcer, more than likely any type of tension in the stomach, the physical Western stomach area, is going to indicate that that person is not handling stress well. And we really do, as we say in English, often eat our emotions. We swallow and push down our emotions. And that's very true in no matter what culture that you're going into. So if someone comes into your clinic and presents with Shinkahi, I would love for you to have a little conversation with them. Maybe just start prompt of like, how's your life been going lately? You know, or you can label their emotion that they're having like, you seem pretty stressed lately. And just start a conversation about how things are going for them emotionally and how they're dealing with it. As with all things in acupuncture and moxibustion, there are really only 3 causations of disease, and emotional is definitely one of the biggest. So please do check in with that with clients, and I'd love to hear if it helps you diagnose. Shinkahi is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to diagnosing the Hara and really understanding a person from their Hara diagnosis. If you're interested in learning more about Hara diagnosis, the palpation to get you there, and then the techniques to really help you treat it, I would love to talk to you. Hara diagnosis really is a very complex and amazing diagnostic method for your treatment. And if you're watching this video and thinking to yourself, man, I really need to learn more of this, then I would love to have a discussion with you to see how we can help your Hara diagnosis get to the next level with amazing palpation, even more amazing theory, and of course the technique and application of that technique to really treat what you're finding. You can find a link to that chat in the description box below. If this video better helped you understand Shinkahi and Hara diagnosis, then go ahead and give it a thumbs up, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel to learn more about traditional Japanese medicine in all of its facets. Thank you so much for watching, and if you are interested in really dialing in your Hara diagnosis even more, please do check out this video right over here.